So today we're going to be breaking down the performance of Chopin's Prelude in A major. That's Opus 28, number 7. And you know, this song is super delicate, super beautiful. I'm completely in love with it. This was probably the first time that I heard a classical piece of music, even though I'd been studying it in high school, studying classical music in high school and college. It was more of a clinical thing to work on my technique and my expression and stuff like that. And I'd heard Ivo Pogorelick's, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but I had heard his rendition of this on YouTube, and that was probably the first time where I was like, wow, this is beautiful, and it like really connected with me, you know? So the piece is really delicate, and I think you know, you can approach this from an intermediate standpoint and a more advanced standpoint depending on what you're trying to work on. The intermediate stuff will be, you know, a focus on the chords and jumping between positions and stuff like that. And the advanced standpoint is kind of the interpretation of it, you know, the bringing out specific voices in your chords and the dynamics of everything and the rubato of it. So it starts out, you know, the whole chord progression is basically E7 to A, E7 to A, and then that's the first half, and the second half is like E7 to A, E7 to A to F sharp 7 to B minor to E7 to A. It's kind of like a 5 of 2 to 5-1 at the end there. And you know, we'll get to it in a little bit, but that F sharp 7 is like really the first difference, and so it in my opinion, the F sharp 7 to the B minor 7, or the B minor rather, are the two most important chords and the most important moment in this entire piece. So we're starting out on this E alone, and then we bring in a low E underneath it to an E7 with just a single note in the bass side. And then we're going up to this D and F sharp, and then we go to a half step lower and slide into the chord as we play the A underneath. Jump up. And so now this is what I'm talking about, the more advanced stuff, right? Firstly, with these hits, it's always like da ba da bum bum bum. I feel like in Ivo's interpretation of it, which is what I'm trying, you know, which is the interpretation that connected with me the most. Those echo chords, you know, the 2, 3, 1 half note, they get like quieter each time, right? So it's really, you know, an opportunity to practice your dynamics. And it's an opportunity to work on bringing different voices out. And the way that I do that is I basically just kind of angle my hand so that one finger is going to be hitting slightly harder, or at least with more, you know, more strength than another. So rather than where you're kind of focused on the C sharp, you really want to bring that A, that high A out. Right, and all I'm doing is kind of just pressing the high A a little bit harder. So we come from that. Just like that. Back into this E7 kind of thing, but it's more of an E7-9 now. And this whole thing is, the theme is kind of this like half note down, or a half step down, sliding into the melody kind of thing. That second E7 to A, that turnaround there, you start on the D and the G sharp of the E7. And what I'm doing here to make it smooth is I'm using my second and third finger in my right hand, and then just resolving it. If that's choppy like that, but I want it to be nice and smooth, just kind of resolving it second and third to 1 and 4. for the second half. This time we hold this first E down. Now I start to build toward this this A major. Here comes a fake out. Right, makes it very dramatic. Cycling back a little bit, I'm switching position here. The first time that we did that that slide into the A major there, we were I was back in the second quadrant, and now I'm up in the third, and that's just to save myself a jump. That's an unnecessarily difficult jump when I could just go sitting in the third quadrant like that. So back to the fake out, right? We sit on this F sharp 7, and the way I'd done it is like a crescendo into you know, basically a piano or mezzo piano, lower volume once I hit the F sharp 7, and I kind of give between the chords a little breath, and then I hang on to the F sharp 7 there, kind of like a fermata. Really light into the next part. And then for those of us with an open low B, to really get the proper rumble that's written in the sheet music, I'm just kind of plucking with my left hand and plucking the open low B string. And then, this is a really cool part. So I'm doing, in order to get the full chord, I'm doing this inversion. It's B minor, but I'm taking the D here and putting it on the bottom. And then the inner voice comes down to that E there. And then in the left hand, I'm letting the low B ring, and I'm hitting the F sharp with the right hand. Oop. And then to the E7, 9. Right, and remember your dynamics. You want to kind of make it feel a little bit restful. And then back to the D and D and G sharp, and then we finish up. Going back to the B minor with this, to bring the inner voice out again, it's the same as before. I'm just kind of focusing on having my pinky be the main striking point. You know, it's an interesting, very subtle technique. You know, it's not that I'm hitting harder with the pinky. I mean, I guess technically I am. I'm just kind of making sure that that's the finger that's getting the most focus, right? And something about that just innately causes me to give it the most energy as well, and it helps to bring that voice out. Oops. Alright, so that's pretty much it. There's a lot of really riding on the tips of your fingers, like the very, very tips, in order to not muddy up any of the notes and accidentally mute them, which I think is good practice. If you're playing a lot of, you know, adjacent string voiced chords, you know, one string next to the other, then that's going to be good practice for that, for keeping each of the notes. You know, you don't want this to happen, right? Hear how you know, I'm cutting out the B in that E7 by being a little sloppy with my fingering position. So, like I said, there's a lot of just really riding on the tips of your fingers here. For these sixths, in the second time the E7 comes back, and then the very final A major, so here, I'm using, and then here as well, using fingers 1 and 3, because I have to switch between a major sixth to a minor sixth, and it's a lot easier for me to extend fingers 1 and 3 like that than it is fingers 2 and 3. So just a little note there. Anyway, that's about it. Give this one a shot. This is one of my favorite Chopin pieces ever. So give it a shot. Be patient with this. It's deceptively difficult. And yeah, lots of stuff to take from it. So keep exploring, and I'll see you soon.